This is Tyre Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully, you guys have had a good Monday. Got a lot to unpack in this video here. This could be a long one, so just kind of buckle up here. I'll try and leave a timestamp in the comments. I know I've done a little bit bad with that, so just bear with me on that. I'm going to try to remember this time. It's kind of hard to do this stuff when I get home from work, get home from the gym, etc. Try to stay busy outside of this too. So, yeah. But anyway, enough rambling here. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the severe weather threat first, because we also have other topics such as Nicole and even a Arctic blast that's coming as well. So, and maybe even a blizzard. So we're going to go ahead and just get into all of that here. So we're going to start out with severe weather. We have a day 4 slight risk in effect. We're looking at states of Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa especially, but we can also include Kansas and Missouri as well. So far, based off the models, and I'll be getting into that in a minute, but I can tell you for a fact that this definitely has the look of a linear event more so this time. Can't rule out any sort of prefrontal cells as well, but I'm leaning towards more of a damaging wind, straight line wind event, more than the tornado threat that we had seen over in the Red River area last week. So all I'm going to say is look out. Des Moines, Omaha, Lincoln, Kansas City. I may even go as far as to say Wichita, even though you're just a little bit to the south and east of this slight risk here. But it definitely looks like we're going to be in for a little bit of severe weather here. I don't really think this area will get upgraded, but we'll see what happens with it. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the models now. So here we are, one of my favorite excuse me, it's one of my favorite maps here. It's the vorticity map here. It usually can really give you a good indicator of how strong a storm system is and just what it's doing to a trough, because these storm tracks are often heavily based off the troughs, but if there's a storm that's actually really strong, you can start seeing really big dips like this and even what's called trough ejections. I'll get into that in another video someday, but this is what we have going on here. So we are looking towards the 10th right now. This is our day 4 threat. I do think that there is potential for some supercells to develop out ahead of this area here, but I do think that potential is relatively minimal, I would say. But this definitely has a look of a linear type event. It's definitely looking like a progressive low pressure system here, but I do see some cold air trying to wrap around the back of this, becoming a snow event possibly. So we'll roll this along here. We can also take note of Nicole going through Florida through the middle of the week and to the latter half here. We could potentially even see 2 landfalls as it first goes through eastern Florida and maybe even goes through the Big Bend after that as a tropical storm. In all likelihood, the first landfall will be as a hurricane as well. So we'll move this along here. Storm ejects outward with this. And there was at one point the Euro was showing an attempt between Nicole and this storm system to maybe interact with one another, but we seem to have trended away from that now. But one thing that has not changed is the potential for an Arctic blast to come in for the start of next week. Some very cold air could be coming in behind this. And then this is also going to get reinforced by a secondary blast that comes into the northwest here. So, and then there's also a big storm system that looks like it's trying to come in almost like an Alberta Clipper. And this could very well cause a very big snowstorm towards the other half of November here. And then also we may have to watch this system here for a potential Arctic blast towards the northeast as well. So there's a lot of moving parts going on with this here. We'll go ahead and use the GFS as well to kind of compare. So it should be popping up here. Here we are. Just need to make sure I'm clicking the right buttons. So here's Nicole right here, and here's our big storm system here, trough ejection. Oops, I did not mean to click the sounding. So let's see what the latest GFS has to offer us here, because I think it's also kind of trending along with the euro, whereas before Nicole and this storm system do look like they interact here. There still looks like there's an attempt, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen this time. Either way, this is going to still allow for the trough to really dig in here and a big Arctic blast to maybe come in afterwards. And even towards the other half of the month here, looks like we're starting to get some really big storm systems. This one I find really interesting. And then on top of that, this could also have a chance it may be producing a little bit more of a southern severe weather event for the southeast here, because this kind of has that little bit of a slight zonal look to it, but it's still not a super big dip in the jet stream. It's a lot of uncertainty with this. We're super far out. We're just barely ahead of what the euro is showing us here. Showing us here. We'll just kind of have to see how things go, because as we progress further and further along with this, it looks like we get further into no man's land. And then here's a huge storm system that looks like it's going to roll in around the 20th to 22nd time frame of November. And we'll have to watch and see how this progresses here, because this could turn into a nasty severe weather event. It has that zonal flow look to it that I don't like seeing, or slightly zonal look to it. Still looks pretty progressive here, which might be some good news, but we also got the look of maybe even a storm system up north of that, and these two could potentially phase. So there's, like I said, a lot of moving parts. The second half of November is going to be extremely active, I feel like. This whole month really has the potential to be active, but especially as we progress towards the second half, things could get really interesting. And there may even be potential for, who knows, maybe even a Thanksgiving storm system here. Do we know what that will bring? I have no idea. It's too far out to tell, even with the GFS. There's only one real model I could look at there that would maybe show us what could be ahead for that far out, but I don't really like looking even as far out as this GFS run goes. So it's a little sketchy. But as of right now, once we get to about really 240, really up to about 200 hours out, we start to get into that little bit of a no man's land territory where we just aren't sure. But as I've said before in a previous video, we're looking more towards trends. We're looking more towards consistency. If we, over the next 3 to 5 runs, we start seeing this, then I start to get an increase in confidence. But anyway, enough rambling about that. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at what the radar could look like here. We're going to start out with the Euro, and then we're going to slip back to the GFS here. And then we're actually going to go ahead and talk about Nicole in a minute. So here we are back to the 12Z Euro. 18Z Euro has just come out, but of course that's only 90 hours. And we've been talking about stuff that's been a little bit further out than that. So in order to get a good model comparison, we have to kind of go back to go forward, if you know what I mean. It's fun. Meteorology can be some fun stuff sometimes. But if we look over to the right side of the screen here, here's Nicole starting to get its act together. We're expecting her to strengthen tomorrow and Wednesday night as it makes its approach to the Florida coastline and the northern Bahamas. We do expect this to become a hurricane. I would say right now a minimal hurricane. We'll have to see how things progress with that. Meanwhile, here's our big storm system. Getting plenty of rain and snow in the northwest. Idaho, Montana are involved in this one. We also got Utah, the Four Corners, and pretty much almost all the Four Corners region here. Looking at some heavy snow. And it's when we get into Thursday afternoon where we start to see that line begin to develop here. But we are looking like we're going to get some really heavy snow over towards the Dakotas, especially here. Potentially even a blizzard. It's a pretty strong system. We're under 1,000 millibars, which is something we always look for. We're at 993 to be exact. Here's our line of storms. I was definitely, like I said, I was expecting a little bit more of a linear type mode. It's a very progressive storm system, so you aren't going to really get a big opportunity for any discrete supercells like we did last week over here. So we'll move this along. Then here's Nicole right here. No real interaction between these two storm systems, as I said before, but this does make its way up the East Coast and will be a very big rainmaker for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast regions here. And while that's going on, we'll be looking towards our next storm system as an Arctic blast begins to come in at the end of this week and the start of next week. So here's our next big storm system. Not quite as robust as the last, but there is potential for some maybe a few thunderstorms to pop out ahead of this. Could have some potential for severe, but right now it's not looking super robust. A lot of what looks to be crap vection as well. So we'll have to kind of see how things progress with that. But that's what we got going on here with the Euro. When we go to the GFS here, a little bit different story here. Load this up now and off we go with this. Pretty much the same story starting out. We're about 36 hours out. Heavy snow up towards the Sierra Nevada region, and we watch this push into the northwest. I would say I was about to say northeast, but of course we're also looking at our tropical entity here. We're looking at Nicole. It's a little bit of a warm layer here too, actually. So it gets interesting in regards to some areas that could get a little wintry mix here and a little ice even. So that's going to be interesting before we turn all snow. Of course, the GFS has this as a slightly stronger storm with Arctic air out ahead of this too. So there could be some grand snowfall totals out of this as well. And we'll probably try and talk more about the wintry side tomorrow, because it's just a lot. There's a lot to cover in this video, and I don't want to make it 30 minutes for you guys. I know it's hard to watch, just as it is when it gets to about 18, 19 minutes, or really 15 even. So here's our next storm system. Interestingly enough, I've been seeing this run for a little bit where we could get some backside snow even towards the Texas Panhandle and Oklahoma as well. It's pretty crazy. It does kind of coincide with Arctic blasts that we've been seeing. I don't expect a lot of snow, maybe an inch at most for some places, but for this time of year, that's pretty crazy. And then here's a crazy run here too, where we're looking at potential for maybe even a little bit of a wintry mix towards the Appalachians here. I'm not ruling it out. And then also this has the look of a coastal storm as well towards the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. I can't really latch onto it just yet, but I do see a little bit more confidence, although there is discrepancy between the GFS and the Euro. And then, of course, another Arctic blast comes in to reinforce the one before it. So we're kind of getting set up into that slightly positive PNA pattern. It's a little bit more neutral because it's still pretty cold up in the Northeast, but not quite as cold. Then the jet stream really starts to take more of a dive from Canada more so than it does just from the northwest. So it's going to be really hard to kind of read what happens next as time goes on. We'll have to see how this progresses here. But this looks like our next big severe weather threat after the 16th. Looks like a pretty moderately robust storm system comes in. Could turn into a southeast severe weather event possibly. It definitely looks like a heavy rain event, maybe even some flooding. But as far out as this is, we can't really latch on to that. Also, it looks like further north we go with this system, it turns into a big snow event as well. So definitely something I'm going to be keeping in mind here. Haven't marked in my head, but yeah, just like I said, a lot of moving parts here. A lot of activity going on right now for the latter half of November so far. All right, so now let's get to the tropics right now. Nothing really has changed outside of Nicole forming today. This system, we're actually kind of losing some confidence in it developing, but I've said that about the last two systems that have been out in this region, then they both have formed into hurricanes and so on and so forth. So, like I said, the next named storm would be Owen. Can't rule this out, but this is heading towards cooler waters. It's not a very ideal environment, and then I almost kind of feel like maybe Nicole could be affecting the system, because here's the thing with subtropical systems, they don't follow the rules of traditional tropical systems. They aren't a warm core like our traditional tropical storm system or our traditional tropical systems. Plus, they have larger wind fields, so it could be possible that the wind field from Nicole could be affecting this storm system, or caught in the wake, as you would say. And thus, this storm may not ever have a chance of really developing. So we'll have to see how that progresses here, but that's what we have going on right now in the Atlantic. Nothing else really pressing beyond that. So we'll go ahead and pretty much talk about Nicole from that point. So we already know the deal with this one out here. Let's go ahead and look at Nicole, which is now expected to strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane. Still a minimal Category 1 as of right now. We'll have to see how things progress. We're expecting her to strengthen tonight or tomorrow night and into Wednesday. But as of right now, we're still holding at 45 miles per hour. And based off the satellite here, really not much going on here, but you can definitely tell there's a slightly bigger wind field than what you would see with most traditional tropical storms here, just from looking at the satellite imagery. Here's a better look at it right here. But you can also see like these little clear slots where these clouds have kind of moved out here. So she is struggling a little bit. She has some shear forming on the north side here, and maybe even towards the east side as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this storm system continues to try to mature. But I do think that in all likelihood it eventually will go fully tropical and then eventually become a hurricane as it makes its approach to the west. So here we are with now hurricane warnings for parts of the northern Bahamas, tropical storm warnings as well. And then now Florida has been put under hurricane watches, tropical storm watches, even starting to spread up even towards the Georgia coast now. And then we also have storm surge watches in this area here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the spaghetti models real quick, and then we'll be done with this video. And then I'll have something for you guys in the morning. So, of course, we know what the path is going to be as of right now. No real surprises there. But as I said in really last night's video, I do believe that this has the potential to become a Category 1. So a lot more confidence in that. A lot more models are pushing for it. Some are starting to push this even a little further. I don't really see potential for Category 2 or anything beyond that. I don't expect this to become a major hurricane at all. So that's one piece of good news in all of this. But this does also look like it could be heading towards areas that were hard hit before. I know cleanup efforts are still going on in western Florida, so you guys be on the lookout. This is mainly for the people that are still dealing with damage, so just kind of have a way to protect what you've already worked on here, and we'll just work and just go from there. And this is the latest run here. It's 1800 universal time here. It's a better look at the spaghetti models. Pretty much a lot of agreement here in regards to where it's going. Eastern Florida is definitely looking like it's on the line of fire, maybe to the north of Miami. And then we could see a secondary landfall in the Big Bend as a tropical storm. This also looks like it pushes up the east coast and into the mid-Atlantic, causing a big rain event. And then there may even be some lingering moisture behind for a little bit of a Great Lakes snow event to occur. I don't expect much out of that, but that just goes to show that we have a lot going on here. But that is the end of this video here. If you liked what you saw with this video. Definitely drop a like. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about this hurricane, the severe weather events that could be coming up, and more. But this has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, and you guys have a good night.